It was the first day of the new school year at Greenwood High, and the hallways buzzed with laughter, chatter, and the clatter of shoes on polished floors. Among the fresh notebooks and eager faces, one person moved with quiet confidence and warmth, Mr. Thomas, a middle-aged English teacher whose soft smile seemed to calm even the most anxious student. His salt-and-pepper hair framed kind eyes that carried a hint of stories untold, lessons learned, and battles fought long before his students were born. To most, Mr. Thomas was simply another teacher, but to those who knew him well, he was something more, a man who refused to give up on anyone, no matter how far gone they seemed. That year, his 10th grade class included a boy named Aaron. Aaron was the kind of student teachers whispered about in the staff room, not out of malice, but out of exhaustion. He was 15, tall for his age, with an expression that always seemed to challenge authority. He never turned in homework, skipped classes whenever he could, and when he did attend, he slouched in his seat and stared out the window, his mind seemingly elsewhere. Rumors about his family life floated around, a father who'd left years ago, a mother who worked double shifts, and an older brother who had dropped out and joined a rough crowd. On the second day of class, when Mr. Thomas handed out an essay assignment, write about someone who changed your life, Aaron crumpled the paper into a ball and tossed it into the trash without a word. A hush fell over the classroom. Some students smirked, others avoided eye contact. Mr. Thomas simply walked over, picked up the paper, smoothed it out, and placed it gently on Aaron's desk. "You don't have to write it today," he said quietly. "But when you're ready, I'd like to read your story." Aaron looked at him, half expecting a scolding, but all he saw was calm patience. It unsettled him. Most teachers had long since stopped bothering. Over the next few weeks, things didn't improve much. Aaron continued to sit at the back, doodling in his notebook, ignoring lessons. When Mr. Thomas asked him a question, he would shrug. When group projects came up, no one wanted him on their team. But Mr. Thomas refused to let him fade into the background. One afternoon, after class had ended, Mr. Thomas noticed Aaron lingering by the window. The boy looked lost, staring out at the football field where others were laughing and running. "Do you play?" Mr. Thomas asked gently. Aaron shook his head. "Used to." "Not anymore." "Why not?" "Doesn't matter," Aaron muttered. "It does to me," Mr. Thomas replied. "You seemed happy watching them. Maybe you miss it." Aaron didn't respond, but the next day, he stayed a few minutes after class again. And the next. Slowly, a small thread of trust began to form. Mr. Thomas didn't push. He just asked questions about books, music, and sometimes, life. A month later, Aaron turned in his first piece of writing, a single page, smudged with pencil marks, about his late grandfather. The sentences were rough, the spelling uneven, but the emotion was raw and honest. Mr. Thomas read it twice before writing a short note at the bottom. "This is powerful. You have a voice that deserves to be heard. Keep writing." Aaron found the paper on his desk the next morning. He stared at the note for a long time, unsure how to feel. No one had ever called his words powerful before. For the first time, he didn't throw the paper away. He folded it neatly and tucked it into his backpack. From then on, something began to shift. Aaron didn't suddenly become a model student, but he started showing up more often. He'd listen, even if he pretended not to. When Mr. Thomas assigned another essay, Aaron turned in 3 paragraphs instead of none. Progress was slow, but it was progress nonetheless. One day, Mr. Thomas stayed late to grade papers. The sun had dipped below the horizon, and the classroom was bathed in the orange glow of the setting sun. He heard a soft knock on the door. It was Aaron, holding a wrinkled notebook. "I wrote something," he said, almost shyly. "It's not for class. Just something I wanted to show you." Mr. Thomas smiled. "I'd love to read it." Aaron handed over the notebook. Inside was a story about a boy lost in the woods, trying to find his way home. The metaphors were clumsy but sincere, each word seemed to echo Aaron's own struggle. "It's beautiful," Mr. Thomas said when he finished. "You wrote from your heart." Aaron's eyes flickered with something between pride and disbelief. "You really think so?" "I know so," Mr. Thomas replied. "You have a gift. You just need to believe in it." That evening, Aaron walked home with a lightness he hadn't felt in years. But life has a way of testing even the most fragile new beginnings. A few weeks later, Aaron's mother fell ill. With bills piling up and no one to help, Aaron began missing school again. His teachers marked him absent, his classmates barely noticed. But Mr. Thomas did. One rainy afternoon, he decided to visit Aaron's home. The apartment building was old, with peeling paint and flickering lights. He climbed the narrow stairs and knocked on the door. Aaron opened it, his eyes widening in surprise. "Mr. Thomas. What are you doing here?" "I wanted to make sure you were okay," Mr. Thomas said softly. "We've missed you in class." Aaron hesitated before stepping aside. Inside, the apartment was small and cluttered, but clean. His mother lay on the couch, coughing softly. Mr. Thomas spoke with her for a few minutes, offering help where he could, groceries, assignments, whatever might ease the burden. Before leaving, he turned to Aaron. "Don't give up, son. Hard times don't last forever. But strong hearts do." As he spoke, he could almost feel his teacher's presence, the calm, patient voice guiding him once more. After the service, Aaron walked through the empty classroom that had once felt like a prison and later became his refuge. He ran his fingers along the desks, the chalkboard, the faded posters. On the teacher's desk lay a small stack of essays tied together with a ribbon. On top was a note in Mr. Thomas's handwriting, "Never give up on anyone. Sometimes, one act of kindness can change a life." Aaron smiled through his tears. He slipped the note into his pocket and whispered, "I won't, sir. I promise." Years later, Aaron stood in front of his own class, watching a group of restless teenagers fidget in their seats. Among them was a boy sitting alone at the back, eyes distant, expression defiant. Aaron recognized that look, it was one he once wore himself. He smiled gently and walked over to the boy's desk. "You don't have to write it today," he said softly, handing him a paper. "But when you're ready, I'd like to read your story." The boy looked up, surprised, and for a moment, Aaron saw a flicker of hope in his eyes. The same flicker Mr. Thomas had once seen in him. And just like that, the cycle of kindness began again, not with grand gestures, but with quiet persistence, patience, and the simple, unyielding belief that no one is ever truly lost. Because somewhere in every struggling heart, there's a story waiting to be written. And sometimes, all it takes is one teacher, one person, who never gives up. And so, the legacy of Mr. Thomas lived on, not through monuments or fame, but through the countless lives his kindness had touched. Each of his students carried a piece of his compassion forward, lighting the world one small act at a time. For in the end, it wasn't just a lesson in English he had taught, it was a lesson in humanity.